else now.
Okay, Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis. Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis. 6 lines from the bottom. Starts with the line starts Chag Shavuos Ksiv. There's a dot there. The Veda Belozav and Yaakov Tana. In our Mishnah, to recap, in our Mishnah, page before that, Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. In our Mishnah, they speak about the concept. They started speaking about the concept of when do you bring the carbon chagiga on any yontif? You have to bring a bunch of kabbanas, and as a machlekes b'sham b'sil, what day can you bring it on yontif? You have to wait for Chol HaMoed to bring it. That brings us to a whole new thing to address. Shavuos. Shavuos does not have Chol HaMoed, right? Shavuos does not have Chol HaMoed. It's 2 days in Golus. We have 2 days of yontif. The Shul is only 1 day, but what's with the karbanas that according to those people that say you can't bring them on yontif? When do you bring those? So there's something called Yom Tevoyach. There's a day that they assign to bring karbanas, any karbanas that they need to shecht for to eat themselves or whatever it is, and that is after Shavuos. So from here, the Gemarrah went into this concept. We know that if you forgot to bring the Chol Chagiga or the Shalmei, the Iyah, the carbon shlam, you have to bring every yontif, and the first day of yontif, can you make it up? And yes, you can make it up until the end of Yontif. For Pesach, you have 7-8 days to make it up. For Sukkot, you have 7-8-9 days to make it up. What about Shavuos? So the Gemarrah basically it taught us that Shavuos also has days that you can make these kabbanas. You can catch up, and it's a week after Shavuos. It's not really week by us. It's like a regular mundane week. But back in the day, this was an important week. That week you were able to go to Beis Hamikdash and make up kabbanas. So that was the machlokes in the Gemarrah that started discussing. How do we know that Shavuos has tashlumin? How do we know that Shavuos has days that you can make up a kabbanas?
That's why we don't take that.
Yeah, we don't take that until you base because of that reason, because it's called the tashlumin. So the Gemarrah brought a few ways that teaches us the few different sources how you can learn that Shavuos has the concept of tashlumin. First one is he says the pasuk says Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos. It mentions all 3 Yom Tovim in the same pasuk. Why? Because he wants to compare all of them. It's the same way Chag HaMatzos has Tashlum. The same thing also. Chag HaShavuos will have Tashlum, will have days to make up. And then the other one, they ask some questions, but they stay with it. And then they go a few more rounds about the different sources. Now we're holding the Vei Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Tana. 6 lines in the bottom. He had a different way to learn that there are days to make it up. The Beit of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Tana, the Shiva of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, they learned. Alma Klal, the pasuk said, brings 2 pasukim, 1 pasuk next to the other. It says in pasuk, Ukrasem be'etzem hayom hazeh. The pasuk hey, Ukrasem be'etzem hazeh. On that day, talking about Shavuos, the pasukim around the pasukim in this parasha, in this specific area in the Chumash speaks about Shavuos. And you will call that day, you'll call Mikra Kodesh, it's a holy day. You cannot make any avodah. The next pasuk, the pasuk right after it says, and when you go and what is it in English, you reap your harvest. So Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov said, it doesn't make sense to say that. Which yontif do you have that you can both call it a holy day, and you can also reap your harvest? You can also cut down the harvest. That's the yontif Shavuos. Why? Because what day is this pasuk talking about? The pasuk says that one pasuk says you're going to call it a yontif. The next pasuk says you're going to cut down the harvest. Which day is it talking about? Elam is b'yontif. If you would say it's Yontif itself, do we allow cutting down a harvest on Yontif itself? And allow let the shlum. When it says the cutting down, it's talking about the days after Yontif. So here we have proof that Shavuos has a set of days after Yontif that you can reap your harvest, you can do malacha, you can do whatever you want, and it's connected to the Yontif. One pasuk says you're going to call it a holy day, and the next pasuk says you're going to reap your harvest. You can cut down the whatever produce you have, wheat and whatever it is. So basically, it must be that this is a yontif, that in the yontif itself, you can go out in the field and cut down. So if you see from one side, it's called a yontif. make up all the kavanas that you missed. And with the other side, you see that you can reap your harvest. So that is the Yemei Tashlum of Shavuos, which comes after the Yontav of Shavuos. So now, to finalize, really, we have two main opinions, two main sources how we learn that after Shavuos there is Yemei Tashlum. There's a concept of Yemei Tashlum. The first one mentioned was in the beginning of the Gemarrah, the Hekesh. The pasuk says Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos. Mentions all Yom Tovim in one pasuk, and therefore they have to be they're similar, like just like Chag HaSukkos has, as Pesach has Yemei Tashlum, so Shavuos also. And then we have this pasuk that tells us the cutting, and it tells us it's called a Yontav. So why do we need both? Even though we had already proof from Maseches Chagiga, we also need this limud, this chidush of Rabbi Yaakov that tells us that it's a klosem ubekutzechem, which yontav you can cut down the harvest. Why do we need both? If you would only go according to Rabbi Lazar, he said that Chag HaMatzos is like Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaShavuos is like Chag HaMatzos. That's just like Chag HaMatzos has 7 days of Tashlum. Chol HaMoed Shavuos also has. If you only have that limud, you will be stuck. You would say, just like Chol HaMoed of Pesach, you are not allowed to do any work. After Shlumi Atzeres, you would say that the days after Shavuos, you're also not allowed to do work. Because if you just use a pasuk to compare Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, then you have to compare it in every aspect. It's the same way you can make up kabbanas on Pesach, you can make up the kabbanas on Shavuos. The same way you can work on Pesach Chol HaMoed, you shouldn't be able to work on the Yemei Tashlum of Shavuos. And that's not the halacha. We know that we're allowed to work. So therefore, we need Rabbi Yaakov to tell us that no, you can have one day Yom Tov, and the next day, which is your makeup days, you can go out to the field and cut down the harvest. Itzach Rabbi Yaakov. The last 4 lines, 4 words of this page. If we go according to the words of Rabbi Yaakov, Lo Yadaina. If we just go according to Rabbi Yaakov, the pasuk doesn't say how many days after Shavuos can you go out in the field and cut. It doesn't say. It just says one day it says call it a yontav, the next day go out in the field, but it doesn't say how long after. But according to the pasuk that he compares Chag HaSukkos and Chag HaPesach, we know that just like Chag HaPesach is a week, so also Shavuos is going to be a week. That it's 1 week, that you have 1 week to make up the kabbanas.
How come Shavuos is talking not 7 days like the other Shalosh Regalim?
Oh, the Eibush admitted as well. No,
but it must be a reason. Because you have Tashlum, so it's gain. It's as if it's Yom Tov. You have 5 extra days.
I don't.
The fact that Tashlumin lets you go that far shows that really there is an Indian of 7 days even by Shavuos.
Yeah, at the same time, you could work. So it's not fully complete like Chol HaMoed. Trying to see the look that I pointed at Tosfos over here. Tosfos is pointing out that in the Yemei Tashlum of Shavuos, the days that you make up a Shavuos, you can go out on the field and work. But according to some opinions, you should only work for the amount of food that you need. You can go to work, you can cut down the harvest, you can build whatever you need to do without a problem, without limitations, but you shouldn't do more than you need to put food on the table. According to opinion, we don't obviously today we don't go according to that, but that's basically what's saying that because you compare it a little bit to Chol HaMoed, you're not supposed to do work b'chlal, unless you're losing money, unless a bunch of conditions we had in Moed Katan. But they wanted to tell us that on Yemei Tashlum you should also not go out to work fully. Work as much as you need, do whatever you want. There's no limitations, but the only limitation I'm going to give you is only for what you have to put down food on the table. Okay. Says the Gemarrah weiter. Here comes an interesting sugya in Gemarrah. I mentioned in the text is the whole idea that you're not to work on Chol HaMoed, is it written in the Torah, or is it that the Chacham told us you're not to work on Chol HaMoed? And the Gemara is going to go through. We're going to go through the Gemarrah, and if we have time, we're going to go through a bunch of meforshim and we see there's a big machlokas with the many of the Rishonim. Some people go one way, and some people go the other way. Eventually, what difference does it make? It really makes a difference when it comes to punishment. Because if it's a midaraisa, then you have one punishment. If it's the rabbanon, it's a different punishment. If you over on a lav, the Torah tells you not to work on the yontif, and you do it, and some people tell you not to do it, then you get malchus. If it's the rabbanon, you get malchus mad. That's a different type of malchus, and there are other differences as well. And other differences, if the rabbanon are the one who made up all these chumnas, then the rabbanon also can be the ones that tell you that the certain instances I take down these halachas, and then you can do whatever you want. So we're going to see. We're going to go through this Gemarrah. The Gemarrah is going to lay down a few ground rules, say a few sources of where we can learn whether this is midalaisa, midalabanan, and then we'll see the Rashi, Tosfos, and a few meforshim. It's pretty straightforward, but let's start. Let's go into it. Okay, second line, David Ches Amar Aleph, second line. The Shlokish says, the Chag HaKotzir, the Torah calls Shavuos Chag HaKotzir. So different than the previous pasuk that said two psukim. And one pasuk says you should call it a holy day, and the next pasuk says you should cut down the harvest. The Shlokish says no, the Yontif itself is called the cutting of the Chag HaKotzir, the day, the Yontif that you cut down the harvest. Which Yontif do you have that one day you will go out you'll have a yontif, and the next day you will bring a korban Chagiga, and you're at the same time while you bring a korban Chagiga, you will go also and cut the harvest in the field. As that says, but why? Because when is this day that you cut down the field? If you say it's yontif, are you allowed to cut down the yontif? So basically, you must say that the Chag HaKotzir means that the days after Shavuos, which is a day you can bring the korban Chagiga, that day you also can go cut the field. That's what it said. That's what it means when it says Chag HaKotzir. So the Shlokish teaches us another source of why there is the concept of the Shlom. And again, if you go according to the Shlokish, we wouldn't know how many days this Temei Shlom lasts, and therefore we need the z.ב-י that tells us it's a week like Chag HaSukkos. But the Shlokish gives us a very simple proof, a very simple source from the Torah. Yontif Shavuos is called the Yontif of reaping the harvest, Chag HaKotzir. Okay, so Amar Rabbi Yochanan, so the Shlokish brother-in-law didn't like it. Amar Rabbi Yochanan told him, Elameato, that's problematic. There's another Yontif that is called Chag HaAsiv. Sukkos, one of the names of Sukkos is Chag HaAsiv, the day that you gather all your produce from the field. So you're gonna apply the same logic. Ezer Chag Shesh B'Asifa Hava Oimer Chag HaSukkos. Which day do you have? A day that you gather all the fruits from the field? It's Chag HaSukkos. So again, what day of the Chag Yontif Sukkos are we talking about? If we're talking about B'Yontif, Melacha B'Yontif Mishala, are you allowed to make a Melacha in Yontif? Ella, you must say that when can you go to the field in the holiday of Sukkos to gather all the produce from the field? It must be Chol HaMoed. And Chol HaMoed, you can go out in the field and gather all the fruits or the produce. So Rabbi Yochanan asks him, Chol HaMoed Mishala, are you allowed to do a Melacha in Chol HaMoed? You're not allowed to do a Melacha in Chol HaMoed. Elo Chag Haba Bizman Asifa. Now, when it says Chag HaAsif, it means that the Yontif that happens in the general time. When is the time when people go out in the field and gather all the produce? It's in the time. It's October. It's Tishrei, end of El, Tishrei, Cheshvan. That's the time when you gather everything from the field because the winter is coming. But it doesn't mean that this specific Yontif is the Yontif that you're going to do both. You're going to bring a korban and you're going to go gather the field. Same thing also, he tells the Shlokish, what you said about Chag HaKotzir doesn't make sense. Doesn't mean that the day that you could go cut the field, the same day you can bring a korban Chagiga. No, it doesn't mean that. It means in the general time, when do people go out in the field to cut down the harvest? It's in the summer. It's with the time when Shavuos comes around, before the summer heat comes. So that's when you go out in the field and cut everything down. So that's when you cut it down. But it doesn't mean that day is a day. So therefore, he takes down the Shlokish's source of telling us that the concept of Shlum exists. But the Shlokish did not respond to this. So the Shlokish agrees with Rabbi Yochanan that on Chol HaMoed you don't have to do any work. Okay? Chol HaMoed you don't have to do any work. Zog the Gemarrah Michlal the Tavayos Violu both agree the Chol HaMoed also b'asiyas malacha. But Chol HaMoed, you're not allowed to do any work. So, according to the opinions that say that you're not allowed to work Chol HaMoed, the Torah tells you you're not allowed to work Chol HaMoed, the Gemarrah asks this question: if the Shlokish and Rabbi Yochanan tell us that you're not allowed to do any work on Chol HaMoed, Minat Torah, the Torah tells you not to do any work on Chol HaMoed, I want to know where in the Torah does it say that. That's how the Gemarrah is going to go in one way. According to the people that say that Chol HaMoed, you're allowed to do work on the Torah, the Rabbanan tell you can't do any work, they have to explain this Gemarrah a little bit different. They say that they agree that you're not to do work. The Chachamim, the Gemarrah is going to finish off with that. The Chachamim are the ones that tell us, Minatoy allowed to do work. The Chachamim tell us that you're not allowed to work on Chol HaMoed, and the Gemarrah is asking us, bring me some proof, something. Where could it be hinted in the Gemarrah, in the Torah, that you're not allowed to work on Chol HaMoed? And that's the Gemarrah goes according to that opinion. That where in the Torah is it hinted in the Chol HaMoed you're not allowed to do any work? Okay, because in the Gemarrah itself it does not say the Raisa the Rabbanan. The Gemarrah says Michlal the Tavayas Violu the Chol HaMoed also b'asiyas malacha. Both agree the Chol HaMoed you're not allowed to do any work. We don't know. Is it the Rabbanan or is it the Raisa? We don't know. So according to, if it's the Raisa, the Gemarrah is going to ask Menon and Milah where in the Torah does it say that. If it's the Rabbanan, Menon and Milah, tell me something. Why would it come up with this concept? Why would the Chacham come and tell us that you're not allowed to do any work? The Tana Rabbanan. The Gemarrah is going to bring a few psukim from the Torah, and from the psukim we can derive that you're not allowed to work on Chol HaMoed. The Tana Rabbanan. Es Chaga Matzos Tishma Shivas Yom. Chaga Matzos you have to keep 7 days. Limit al Chol HaMoed. So you have to keep the Yontif Tishma. You have to watch out 7 days. What does the full pasuk say? Pasuk says, "Chaga Matzos Tishma Shivas Yom." Shivas Yom Teichel Matzos. 7 days you should eat matzos. Kasha Tzivasicha. That's what the pasuk says. The pasuk is talking about the Yontif of Pesach, and it says all 7 days you have to keep matzos. But Tishmoil, there's a klal. Rashi says that every time it says Tishmoil, it is as if the Torah tells you don't do something. Watch out for something. It is as if the Torah tells you loy, don't do that. Al taset, loy sasa, don't do that. That's what Rashi says. V'chol Tishmoil azoas loy sasi. Every time it says Tishmoil, it means the taich is I'm warning you, do not do a certain thing. So when the pasuk says Chag HaMatzos Tishmoil Shivas Yom, that means all 7 days. Taka Yontif is different than Chol HaMoed, but all 7 days you have to be careful. Don't do something. Limit al Chol HaMoed she'also b'asiyas malacha. That comes to teach us that Chol HaMoed not to do malacha. Divrei Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshia says a different pasuk. Ein etzalach. We don't need to use a pasuk like that. Kal v'chayma. We can use a kal v'chayma. What is a kal v'chayma? If the less stricter thing has a certain halacha, we're going to apply this for the more stricter thing. Yeah, that's how Kal V'chayma works. We look at, actually Kal V'chayma works both ways, but in our case, we look at something that is missing something in a certain area, it's less strict, and you're going to apply the halacha on the stricter thing. So what's a Kal V'chayma? What's the place? It's Kal V'chayma, Oma Rishon Shvi, the first day of Pesach, and the 7th day of Pesach, she'ein kedusha lifnei malachim. Erev Pesach does not have any kedusha, does not have any holiness. The day after Pesach also does not have any holiness. It's not pizza. Yeah, we go pizza. It's Isur Chag. Yeah, but it doesn't. It's not a holy day, and yet basically you go from a fully mundane day to a fully holy day. And what do you say? There's no holiness before the first day or after the last day. On that day of Yontif, the first day, the 7th day, you're not allowed to do a malacha. Chol HaMoed, Chol HaMoed, sheyesh shlush lifnei. Chol HaMoed is sandwiched between 2 holy days. The 6 days, 5-6 days of Chol HaMoed are sandwiched between the first day of Yontif and the second day of Yontif. For sure, we should have say that because it's sandwiched between holy days, all the days are kind of holy, and you cannot make malacha. So the Kal V'chayma here is, even though Yontif is really more strict than the Chol HaMoed, but in this case, the Gemarrah is basically telling us that Yontif has a certain aspect that is missing. It's missing the fact that that it comes after a holy day. It's missing the fact that after Yontif, another holy day comes. But Chol HaMoed has this. Chol HaMoed has that. The Chol HaMoed starts off with the first day of Pesach, then it goes into Chol HaMoed, and it finishes off with going into another Yontif. So because it's sandwiched between those things, we should apply that if the first day and last day not to do a malacha, then they're also in Chol HaMoed, you should not be able to do malacha. Now, I think what Kal V'Chomer is that anyone, if all you got to do is find something that's stricter, find something that either in a different place, that it looks like this scenario. We have here a scenario where we have one day of holiness, another day of holiness, and a bunch of days sandwiched in between. Find another scenario like that, and see that the halachas doesn't apply. We don't say that because it's sandwiched in 2 holy days, everything in between is holy. And then you can knock down the whole Kal V'Chomer. Another way of knocking down the Kal V'Chomer is flipping the tables. You say this is Kal. You say this is the less stricter thing, and this is the more stringent thing. No, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to show you something. Everything flips around, and therefore the whole Kal V'Chomer falls apart. So he made a Kal V'Chomer. The first day and the last day are not attached to any holy days, and he's still not allowed to do a malacha the first day and the 7th day. So Chol HaMoed should we have to make a malacha? Sagt die Gemarrah. Sheishes Mei Bereshis Yechichu. The Sheishes Mei, the 6th day of creation. What are 6 days of creation? 6 days of creation is a way for the Gemarrah to tell us when he wants to say simple, the 6th day work week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not to confuse with anything else, it calls it Sheishes Mei Bereshis. Every week, you have 6 days of the week that are sandwiched between one Shabbos and the other Shabbos. It's the same concept. Shabbos, you're not allowed to do malacha. The day before Shabbos is not a problem. The day of Shabbos is not a problem. And the day in between, you also say you don't do malacha. So basically, you're knocking down this Kal V'Chomer by bringing proof that Sheishes and Mei Bereshis, the 6 days of the week, are in exactly the same concept of the Chol HaMoed is. Just like Chol HaMoed is sandwiched between 2 holy days of Yontif, the weekdays of the week are also sandwiched, but we don't apply that same logic for the weekdays. We don't say that the whole week is holy. Mashiach will come, it will be like that, but we don't say that now. So, Zag the Gemarrah, Sheishes Mei Bereshis Yechichu. You can knock on the Kal V'Chomer, Sheyesh Kedusha Lefnei Achreim. There is a holy day before the Sheishes Mei Bereshis, and after Sheishes Mei Bereshis, one Shabbos to another Shabbos. Umatom sees Malach and allowed to do work. So he says, no, you can't knock it out from Sheishes Mei Bereshis. Why? Because Sheishes Mei Bereshis has something special. Ma'ale Sheishes Mei Bereshis She'ein Ban Korban Musaf. Sheishes Mei Bereshis, during the weekdays, we don't bring a Korban Musaf. Chol HaMoed, every day you brought a Korban Musaf. That's why we have Musaf, right? You brought a Korban Musaf. So you can bring proof from Sheishes Mei Bereshis because it's different. Therefore, what I would say is, during the weekdays, because you don't bring Musaf, we don't look at the two Shabbosim before and after. But at the days that are being Musaf, it's got something to do with the Yontif before and after. Let's compare to the Yontif before and after. So it says, so the Gemarrah knocks it out again. What do we have on Ashchaydesh? We bring a Kal Musaf. Yet you're allowed to do malacha. Sheyesh B'Kal Musaf. There's a Kal Musaf, and Sheyesh B'Kal Musaf mutar basis malacha, and allowed to do malacha. Toima B'Chol HaMoed Shekol Mikra. Sorry, mutar basis malacha. So he knocked down the Kal V'Chomer again. So now basically so the Gemarrah is going to say now, no, you can't bring a question to knock down from Rosh Chodesh. Mal Rosh Chodesh she'ein kol mikra kodesh. It doesn't say anywhere on Rosh Chodesh it's called a mikra kodesh. Toim b'chol HaMoed shekol mikra kodesh. Chol HaMoed is called mikra kodesh. Hoil v'kol mikra kodesh dino she'osa b'sis malachos. The final thing is because Chol HaMoed is called mikra kodesh, calling of holiness. It's a mikra kodesh. Therefore, I'm going to compare it to the day before and the days after. I'm going to compare it to the first day of Yontif and the second day, the last day of Yontif, and everything in between is also basis malacha. So
1 second, that's what din hu means?
Yeah, din hu.
It doesn't just mean that, so now we found a way to make it holy. Why do you need a Kal V'Chomer if you have this v'din hu?
No, din hu means that because of the din is a Kal V'Chomer, the nickname of Kal V'Chomer is din. Din hu.
So you still have to come on to the fact that the first day and the last day are holy, and therefore the Kodesh is also Chol HaMoed. Okay, so basically that's the Gemarrah. Basically, the first one of Yoshia
says there's a pasuk Chag says Tishma. Every time it says Tishma means that Lois said don't do it, and it says 7 days. That's why you're not to do a work on Chol HaMoed. Rabbi Yonasan brings a Kal V'Chomer.
According to Rabbi Yoshia, couldn't that Tishma just refer to chametz?
It does refer to chametz, but the way it's written, apparently the way it's written, you can divide the pasuk in 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
You can divide the pasuk in 1 way and then cut it to dush really. And so you can read the pasuk as Chag HaMatzos Tishma Shivas Yomim. Done.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to you read it as Chag HaMatzos during Chag HaMatzos Tishma Shivas Yomim 7 days. You have to watch out for something. The real way we read it is Chag HaMatzos Tishma, comma. Shivas Yom Teichel Matzah, 7 days should eat matzahs, but because you can read it, there's no punctuation at all. You can read it in different ways. So the Rashi says the dush. It's a dush, and you can split it up, and you can, I guess, basically learn from here.
How do we know that the 7 days have less kedusha in the Chol HaMoed? Maybe the whole thing is yontif. Maybe we have to keep yontif the whole way. Well, how do we know?
It doesn't say
Where
anywhere.
do we see that? No, it says Shivas Yomim Teichel Matzahs.
Yeah, no, it doesn't say.
We know Pesach is 7 days. So how do we know that in the intermediate days you're allowed to do melacha? I mean, why should you?
Because
it be 7 days yontif finished?
Because it says b'yom Rishon Mikakodesh, b'yom Shvi Mishmini Mikakodesh. It says very clearly the first Shmini or Sukkot Shmini. It doesn't say that the days in between. It's not clear. According to the opinions that it's actually Minatayla, so these psukim are helping us bring proof that yes, the Torah tells us Chol HaMoed. We didn't write it clearly, and there's so many. I printed. I don't know how much we're going to cover tonight, and I would like to cover because it's such an interesting sugya because the Shonim and Pashat fighting with each other to explain different passages and different passages in Mishnayos. And it's very interesting.
Some people we don't wear tefillin. I mean, this is a big thing. That you don't,
right.
It's
which we covered in Moed Katan.
Yeah. It's not like you could just do whatever you want. I mean,
we covered it full in yeah.
It's very serious.
And that's one of the proofs they bring. You wouldn't have not written Kolam Vazes as a Moyadois if hadn't it been Midaraisa. So it's back and forth. We covered tefillin, I believe, in Moed Katan, no, didn't we?
Yeah.
With a whole Kabbalah thing, the progression over years. We had a whole thing. One of the shiurim, we had a whole thing of how it progressed over the years. Where it came from everyone put on tefillin, then people started putting without a blacha, then people started having arguments, and today even the only ones that wear tefillin are I think Ashkenazim, the ones that are really
without a bracha.
Without a blacha. And they hide usually unless they have their own minyan. And there's one Chassidus that does it, which argues with all the Chassidim because the Chassidim follow current Kabbalah, Baal Shem Tov Kabbalah. One Chassidus, Babav Chassidim, they go, not everyone, but the Bachrim until 18, I think, they put on tefillin at Sina, outside, and they have to come in and holla, and it's a whole thing. But that's a separate thing. But yeah, the question really is, what is the story with Chol HaMoed? What kind of kedusha does it have? Is it a chacham or is it not? So let's finish the Gemarrah here. But then we're gonna see how much we can cover, and if not, we'll cover it I guess next week because it's a highly interesting sugya. This whole thing back and forth. All right, so we brought one proof of Rabbi Yonasan, whether or not the Torah tells us, or there's proof from the Torah in some way or form that you're allowed to do, that you can't do malach and Chol HaMoed. Tanya Idach, okay, like 6-7 lines from the wide lines. Tanya Idach. We learned another blaisa. This is actually this in Teres Kahanim. Kol meleches avoida leisasu. It says in pasuk you should not do any avoida. Limed al choyle shel moed she'osa b'siyas melacha. It teaches us again. What does Rashi explain? Kol meleches avoida leisasu. What does the pasuk say? Es chag hamatzis. Chag HaMatzos Tishma, Shivas Yom Teichel Matzah. 1 second. No, which pasuk is Tani Idach Daled? Where's B'yom Rishon Mikakodesh Kom Lechas Aved L'Sasu? The next pasuk says Shivas Yom Takivu. And again we read it that Kom Lechas Aved L'Sasu Shivas Yom. 7 days you're not to make any work because there's no punctuation. The comments and Torah we can read it this way. Basically teaching you, because otherwise the Torah could have written in a different way not to connect it, because the Torah wrote in the way of connecting it, and in the Torah it's really written in one paragraph. Therefore you read it called again you don't need this pasuk. The pasuk, the whole thing starts. Eila Moyadi Hashem. These are the Moyadim. And he enumerates the entire parasha of all the Moyadim. Okay. If when the pasuk says Eila Moyadi Hashem, these are the Moyadim. These are the Yom Tov of the Eibishter. What is it? What is it? What's it referring to? If you tell me it's the first day of Yom Tov, we have a pasuk for that. If you tell me it's for the last day of Yom Tov, we have psukim for that. So what does it say when it says Eila Moyadim? These are the Moyadim. If it's the seventh day or the last day, Eila Moyade is coming to tell us that there are other days in the days of Yom Tov that those days you also not have to do any malacha. That's Abakiva. Simple shot of Abakiva. Simple proof. Tani Idach, another one. And this is a very interesting one. It says 6 days you should eat matzahs, and the 7th day is Atzeres, is a yontif. It's the 7th day that you stay with the Eibishter. Mashvi Otzel, the same way the 7th day is withheld that you don't do any melacha. Also the 6 days are held back that you cannot do any melacha. Imashvi Otzel b'chol melacha. Would you say that the yontif of Shvi Shel Pesach has the same malachas exactly like Chol HaMoed, but all malachas that you're not allowed to do on yontif you can't do in Chol HaMoed? Talmud Loima b'yem Shvi it says, all the 7th days it says, Hashvi Otzel b'chol melacha, the 7th day you're not allowed to do any melacha of any shisha ayam matzu b'chol melacha. The 6th day, the 6 days in between, it's not you're not withholding all the malachas. So now we have a question here. You brought this as a proof. You're trying to bring a proof you're not allowed to do melacha in the Chol HaMoed, and this is a proof that you're allowed to do melacha in Chol HaMoed. So the Gemarrah explains. So it's confusing. Are you allowed to do melacha in Chol HaMoed or not? The pasuk did not write clearly, but the pasuk said that you can't do melacha. But what type of melacha? What constitutes a melacha? How exactly is it going to work out? The Chacham will tell. Eze yom asav, eze yom mutal. Chacham will tell you which day is asav, which day is mutal. Eze melacha asur, which melacha are you allowed to do? Which work are you allowed to do? Which work you're not allowed to do? And in those melachas conditions, and we had them in the beginning of Moed Katan, you can't do certain things that will make you work too hard, because tzidach on a Chol HaMoed is also not to work. If you have a field and you're going to lose the entire field, you can do certain tricks to reduce the water and add this and that and the other thing, or unless you lose your pants, then certain things you're allowed to. But do any melacha you're not allowed to do on Chol HaMoed. And the Chacham will tell you exactly how. So now we have a whole Gemarrah here that speaks with it brings good proof from the Torah. Pasuk after pasuk, we bring psukim after psukim, that there is this concept of not doing melacha in Chol HaMoed. So what's going on with this Chol HaMoed thing with whether it's a delaisa or a rabbanon? So let's start with Rashi, because what we start with Rashi. There's a Rashi, it says here, ha harei le'maslan hakosel l'chacham. Okay, this is like 3 Rashis from the bottom. Kiloima. Come to explain. The Torah tells you cannot make any malacha. So Rashi basically lays his foundation down, and according to Rashi, at least the way I understand it, if you saw it written down by others as well, Rashi understands that the Torah tells you you're not allowed to do malacha on Chol HaMoed. Okay? You can't do many malachas. You can't do it's not included. It does not include all the malachas. The pasuk tells you that in Chol HaMoed there are many malachas you're not allowed to do. Not every not all malachas, many malachas. The Torah doesn't tell you which one you're allowed to, which one you're not allowed to. That detail they left for the Chacham to figure out. But the Torah is the one that tells you not to work on Chol HaMoed. Come and see proof. Shaloi masan HaChacham ayodim lahavin al ezer lahat lahetav al ezer lahat lahison. Chacham are the ones that understand, they know and understand which malachas they're going to say this is mutter, which malacha they're going to say no, it's also not allowed to. V'heim yoyim ez yantev al pi kiddush aliyah. And these are the same Chacham that tell you the whole concept of kiddush hachodesh. When do we see the moon? When is yantev? If the Eibishter would tell us a very concrete way of saying this is the day of Yantiv, then we wouldn't be able to say, okay, according to the moon, maybe Eidim came, witness didn't come. No, the Eibishter decided which day is Yantiv. How do you decide with some vision that you saw in the sky? But it basically tells you that the whole concept, the whole Yantiv thing, is based on the Chacham. Yet the Torah tells you have to keep the Yantiv, But the Chacham will tell you which day is Yontif. Let's say about this
like
expression
Klal and
on.
Prat.
Huh?
It's like Klal and Prat.
Yeah, but I was this is like more whole. I was going to use a little bit lesser thing because he's I think it's a vok maybe from the Hebrews. I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. But he said that from the Satmar people you can learn what is a Havas Yisrael, the amount of Havas Yisrael they have, pouring out, helping the organizations, this and that. But who is Yisrael? That you have to ask all about.
Who's what?
Who is Yisrael? That you have to ask all about. That okay? Because we like, hey, well, come, let's go.
Right.
The Satmar once you define as a Yid, they'll just what's it called? So the saying the Torah tells you can work on Chol HaMoed. Which is the Chol HaMoed? Which is Yontif? What exactly yes, what not? Rashi explains that the Chacham, that's left up to the Chacham. And Chol HaMoed they'll tell you which malacha you're allowed to do, and which malacha which malacha you're allowed to do is something that you're not going to lose your pants off. Etc. So Rashi basically we put on a foundation on Rashi. And Rashi tells us Chol HaMoed you're not allowed to do any work because the Torah tells you which day is Chol HaMoed, which day is Yontif, what are you allowed to or not allowed to. That a Chacham will enumerate, will tell you in detail. Tosfos doesn't agree with that. So we'll see the Tosfos here. It's a little bit of a long Tosfos, but the Tosfos is basically, but the Tosfos is built very simple. The first few lines tells you what Rashi says, what he thinks the Gemarrah says, and Rashi says the way, and then Tosfos builds that up to his bunch of questions, how he brings proof that no, it can't be the Chol HaMoed you're not allowed to do work minat Torah. Bunch of questions, and then he comes to his explanation. So Tosfos has three parts. First part, Chol HaMoed also Masiyas Melacha. The second Tosfos on the page. Chol HaMoed also Masiyas Melacha. L'ch'oila mashma, l'ch'oila we understand. The Melacha, the mitzvah, the Melacha that you're not to do on Chol HaMoed, midaraisa, is minat Torah. The mafig let me pause it because look, all these chacham bring psukim. V'chein be'erek beis the Moed Katan. Also in the second paragraph of Moed Katan, it says that let me boy evil the rabbanon and I feel Chol HaMoed the rice. The Gemarrah over there has a whole limud, and basically the Gemarrah clearly writes not only evil, which is an issue of the rabbanon, Chol HaMoed not working Chol HaMoed the rice. The Gemarrah says clearly it's the rice. So l'choyla is mashma that not working on Chol HaMoed is something the rice. So Rashi explains in Moed Katan as well that not being allowed to work on Chol HaMoed is a rice. So that's Tosfos' basis, laid on his foundation. And now that I laid on his foundation, let's knock this whole thing down. So the second part, he brings a few questions. Number one, if you say that you cannot do any melacha on Chol HaMoed because the Torah tells you, then you should not be able to make deals. If I lose a lot of money, okay, then I don't look at the Torah. It sounds like reform. Like if I can't do it. No, if the Torah tells you one way, you can start cutting and slicing and dicing. This I want, this I don't want. So because the imken dava avot the kam melachas sharin and hasam hechemishtu. The Chacham tell us that there are certain conditions that you can come up with, certain issues that you come up with. And when you have those conditions and those issues come up, you're allowed to work on Chol HaMoed. If it's minat Torah, how can you allow that? Do we find something in the Torah that part of it is also part of it is mutter? You're slicing and dicing this whole deraisa thingy. So that's question number one. Tosfos asks. It doesn't make sense to say it's minat Torah because the Gemarrah itself brings down certain conditions where you're allowed to do malachas and yontif. The second question. That not per gimel the Megillah. In Pergim regard says like this. In Pergim the Megillah, there's a Mishnah there. The Mishnah tells us, lines out the days of Kriya. We know that Kriya we have when we lane the Torah we have days we lane with 3 aliyahs, 4 aliyahs, 5 aliyahs, 6 aliyahs, and 7 aliyahs. Not counting mafta. Base for this is the Torah. There's a halacha that when you lane the Torah, there has to be a minimum of 3 aliyahs. So base is always 3 aliyahs. Sheni v'chamishi, Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos afternoon. It's a base laning, 3 aliyahs. That's what the Mishnah says. If there's a musaf, any day you have musaf, you can add 1 aliyah. So Shabbos you have a musaf. Shchodesh you have Musaf, Yontif you have Musaf, Yom Kippur you have Musaf, Shani you have Musaf, all the Yom Tov you have Musaf, so you can add the Liyah. So all these days have 4. Now comes Yontif. Yontif has another thing that you're not to do certain malachas. Therefore, we're going to add Aliyah 5. Yontif has 3 base ones, Musaf, and certain malachas. Yom Kippur, we have 6 Aliyahs. Why? Yom Kippur has Kodesh. If you do certain malachas, you do certain work, certain avodas, you get there's Esa Kodesh, that it says. Shabbos has an additional, it has additional thing that everything is also more than Yontif, but it's not as strict as Kodesh. So Shabbos has 7 aliyahs. So the most you're going to find is 7 aliyahs, and that's how it works out. So what does the Gemarrah say there? The Mishnah brings this down. The Gemarrah says, Kol mokim she'en Yontif, v'yesh Musaf. Every day there's no Yontif, but there is Musaf. You read 4 aliyahs. Kegoin. What does the Gemarrah bring down as an example? Chol HaMoed v'Chodesh. Chol HaMoed and Chodesh. Alma lo mitzvah malachim b'dekom den Yontif. He calls it. The Gemarrah says clearly the ein Yontif. Chol HaMoed is not a Yontif, so you can't say that it's going to be also b'malacha just like Yontif. The Gemarrah itself says that Chol HaMoed and Chodesh is not a Yontif, and therefore you're going to only have 4 aliyahs. So that's the second question Tosfos has on this pshat. Within the same question, what does the Gemarrah compare Chol HaMoed to? It compares it to Rosh Chodesh. Chol HaMoed ve'Rosh Chodesh. Ve'oit, third question, the Kayalei, he puts in general, he generalizes this concept that he puts Chol HaMoed Bahadi Rosh Chodesh next to Rosh Chodesh. In Rosh Chodesh we know that is the whole thing that certain avoidance in Alter Rosh Chodesh is the Rabbanon. Kadaminu b'Shalom b'Tainis u'Makom shenoagu. The whole thing of Rosh Chodesh is the Rabbanon. No. One second. U'Makom shenoagu halei nashya. There are certain places that the women don't do malacha in Rosh Chodesh. The Regil leimer davidata b'Rishacha minhag. It's only a minute. It's not been a So basically, you put together Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed. You're basically telling you just like Chol HaMoed, Rosh Chodesh is only a minute, but the woman, because of a certain thing, the woman don't do malacha, but the men are allowed to do malacha. And the Chol HaMoed you put in the same gather, the same concept. So therefore, again, the Chol HaMoed you're allowed to do malacha, at least midah. The next question by the Mitzvah Yerushalmi b'Sheni Moed Katan. Yerushalmi Moed Katan brings down Kulam Asu Malacha. Klum Asu Malacha on Chol HaMoed. The whole reason why we tell people they can't do malacha on Chol HaMoed, that the only reasons why we tell people you can't go work on Chol HaMoed because they want people to eat, drink, and learn Torah. If Chol HaMoed is midaraisa, then the reason is not eating and drinking. The reason is because the Eibusha said so. If you say that the reason you can't go work on Chol HaMoed is because you should eat, drink, and learn Torah, then it's avin midavan. And it complains over the basically it's mashma the whole Chol HaMoed is the Rabbanon. Fourth question, or is it whole the fifth already? In the Gemarrah we learned in the last Masechta, there's that you have to do work and you cannot do the work in a way that you're going to finish in the Chol HaMoed. 1 second. And the Gemarrah asks, if he set up his work in a certain way and he died, the Gemarrah asks, can you give these kids a knas because he did the work in Chol HaMoed? Basically, saying the Gemarrah there, saying he brings a proof from a different place, but basically what it boils down is that from the lashon, the way the Gemarrah asks it, is that the whole malach of Chol HaMoed, not doing malach of Chol HaMoed, is Rabbanon. So the last question that he asks, Tosfos says, we can knock this down. Yesh litcha is the mechav malach moed koi. It's talking about a different case. Okay, these are a few questions that Tosfos asks. We have 2 minutes. So now Tosfos comes and says, no, not working Chol HaMoed is not a deraisa, it's a derabanan. Mikomo ke mashma lefio emes the lemitzah with derabanan. Chol HaMoed, the fact that you're not allowed to do any avodah is only with derabanan. Are you going to say we brought in the beginning of Taisa's proof from the Gemarrah that says Chol HaMoed Shadaraisa? V'chi ka'ama hasam b'shpika loy miboy eved rabban afilu Chol HaMoed Shadaraisa. Zok Taisa's ke'en deraisa come. When the Gemarrah in Moed Katan, or the Gemarrah in Moed Katan says that the work on Chol HaMoed is a deraisa, he didn't mean to say it's a real deraisa. It's ke'en deraisa come. Why? The fish yesh la smachta mikra, because as we see in this page, there's so many psukim that tell us that a Chol HaMoed not to work. So therefore, it's only a ke'en deraisa. It's not a real deraisa. Huh? That's why I sat down. One second. Okay, 1 second. So
That is not for when you want it to fit into your narrative. You come every day for the Shiur.
That happens to me. It's like.
okay, so we're gonna go. We'll skip basically. We're gonna skip to finish up for the Ma'av. V'chein pirash Revam at the bottom line on the wide line. V'chein pirash Revam. Revam was the Yitzchak ben Meir. He was actually the grandchild of Rashi. He said the name of his teacher was Rabbeinu Yitzchak ben Osher. The Melacha, these are all European Talmid Chachamim. The Melacha, the Moed Midrabanan, he teaches that the whole idea of you're not allowed to do any Melacha Chol HaMoed is only the Rabbanan. V'loi kipirish Rabbeinu Shmuel shpirish Av V'sachim gab kol mevazes HaMoed, like you brought down that someone is mevazes the Moed, he gon oisim Melacha b'chol HaMoed. The Gemarrah says that someone does Melacha Chol HaMoed is mevazes the Moed. V'alei said the Midrabanan, the Bishus like this says that the whole idea of not being allowed to do work on Chol HaMoed is only Midrabanan. And okay, brings another proof, but basically boils down. Rashi says it's midaraisa, and for now we have Tosha says it's midarabanan. And next week we're going to go into the other meforshim that bring down that it's a real wide-ranging machlokes. The Bas Yosef, the Bach, the whole it's.
Rabbi Lazar was agreeing with us. He said Rabbi Lazar was agreeing with us.